Welcome. How are you going? Good? So glad to be here with you. My name is Kristen Moyer. You can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from around here. I flew in from Denver, Colorado yesterday. Just lovely to be here with you. I run Gartner's Global CEO Survey along with Mark Raskino. And we've been doing this survey for 20 years. We do it specifically for you as CIOs. Because what we want you to understand from this time that we have together is what the CEO's most important macroeconomic business focus areas are and what that means for technology. We want to help you make the right moves in 2024. Here's what CEOs are thinking about right now. They are sensing a new economic future. And surprise, it's an AI economic future. We're really at an inflection point right now in terms of where business is going next. The last time we were in this kind of place was back in 2012, coming out of the global financial crisis. And now we're on a new journey, and it's an AI economic future. The headline findings from our survey are always focused on what the top business priorities are. And we do this as an open-ended question. We don't want to provide a list of response options because it's kind of leading the witness. And so this is in the CEO's own words, what are their top 5 business priorities? Here's what they're thinking this year. It's really a year in 2024 of cautious stability. Last year, it was getting ready for a recession. That was what was on most CEOs' minds. This year, it's cautious stability. So here's their top 10 business priorities. Growth, number 1. Growth is always number 1. The one year that we've done this survey, it was not number 1, was in 2009, kind of coming out of the global financial crisis. But top priority this year. Number 2, technology. Technology did not used to be in the top 10 priorities. It moved in the 2010s with the rise of digital, and it's very much focused in these verbatims. It's very focused on digital as a growth engine and also AI. And so you can see this nice combination in the thinking of the CEO between growth and technology. Next one is workforce. And there's moderating workforce concern this year. On the one hand, the hybrid work still a big challenge, but it's just not the top thing that CEOs are thinking about right now. Talent is, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Corporate, mainly focused on mergers and acquisitions, and you can see this is down. Now we know with M&A, it's very spiky, so it will go up. And it's going to go up soon, we think, because CEOs are starting to think about their next long-term business strategy. So this one's going to move. Cost management. Last year, CEOs were expecting recession. Where I'm from in Denver, Colorado, we get some huge snowstorms, and it's kind of like last year for CEOs was what we do in Denver before a snowstorm. Everybody runs out to the grocery store, gets a bunch of extra food, and then kind of battens down the hatches. So CEOs made a lot of gains with cost optimization last year. What they want to do this year is just hold that steady, not lose the gains that they made. Next one is corporate, and this is really about, or customer, sorry. This is about CEOs, we think, are starting to have a harder time selling to customers. And so a bigger focus on customer engagement and so forth this year. Products and services, not much change, pretty flat year over year. Financial, CEOs right now, they're not worried about the bank. That's what this number shows here. Now in the US, there's concern about commercial real estate and exposure and with regional banks to that, but in general, CEOs aren't worried about the bank right now. Environmental sustainability down a little bit this year. The reason it's down is last year, it went up. A lot of CEOs talking about energy security and concerns about what was going to happen in Europe as winter came along. And Australia played a role in that by getting more liquid natural gas and kind of cooling the market for that. So basically, it went up last year and it kind of came back to where it was before that. So we see continued commitment there, down a little bit this year. Efficiency and productivity, way too low. And what this is really about is a little bit of intellectual laziness on the part of CEOs. Kind of thinking, well, we've got a lot of focus on digital, therefore that's going to move the productivity needle. So there's a real connection for you, a real need for you to make a connection between productivity and what's happening with digital. Productivity is really the only way to manage through some of the talent challenges that we have, reglobalization issues, and so forth. So cautious stability. But we also think that the investment cycle may be nearing a turning point. Here you can see the data of what CEOs' plans are as far as, increasing or decreasing investment. And you can see for the last couple of years, in general, there's been kind of a trend line going down. We're expecting that to go back up. And in fact, we're putting our next survey out into the field shortly, and we're expecting to see a rebound with this within the next 6 months. Now, there's one bar on here I want you to pay special attention to. I'm colorblind, but I think it's a light green color. It's kind of the third from the bottom. You see how that's going up? That is the risk, what CEOs are thinking about risk. And in 2024, risk is on. Now, sometimes people will ask me, Kristen, what keeps CEOs awake at night? What do they lie awake worrying about? They don't worry. They're kind of, alpha personalities and very confident in their abilities, and so they don't lie awake at night, but they are much more focused on risk this year. You can see just this big spike that we haven't seen, even going back 10 years. Some of this is a little bit of macroeconomic concern, like what's going to happen with interest rates if we're kind of holding inflation steady, what's going to happen with interest rates. It's also about what's going to happen with technology disruption. In this region, I think there's a little bit of what's going to happen with China Evergrande. Are we going to see another collateralized debt failure like we haven't seen for a number of years now? But they are more focused on risk for all of these reasons, and one other reason. This one other reason is that they know they need to start making their big moves. I've been listening to earnings calls for, the last 5 years or so on this topic, and what's been happening is that in 2020, 2021, there was so much uncertainty that there was kind of like this uncertainty in action. But here's the thing, investors have a lot of dry powder right now. And so activist investors more and more are going to be looking at, what's happening with this business unit over here? It's been underperforming. Maybe we need to divest there. And so this uncertainty in action excuse, CEOs know that they can't keep doing this, and they know they need to make big moves. That makes them feel like a little bit more focused on risk. So if we look at investment parameters and how they're shifting, here's what that looks like. 57% of CEOs say that they need higher returns in this next year. They need 2% higher returns, which 2%, that doesn't sound, that bad. But for some organizations, inflation has kind of artificially driven up profitability. So 2% is probably going to feel a little bit harder than you think it would. And 43%, though, are tolerating a longer time horizon. The reason? They know they need to make big moves, and they need time to think and test and learn. So there's 2 action items for you as you head into 2024. The first one is to find the foundations of what this post-crisis business strategy is really going to look like. And then the other one is to frame the AI future. CEOs are working with boards of directors and, making a lot of plans, but they have not framed the future yet. They need your help to do this. So let's start with finding foundations of the post-crisis business strategy. Most CEOs are creating this strategy now. And if they haven't already done it or are in the process, they will have it done by the end of next year. Responsible profitability is going to be a constant challenge and a part of this. And the reason we say that is investors want better returns, but they need it in a responsible way. So they want to see improved capital use. Look at the numbers that are moving here year over year. Cash preservation, business resilience. They want those things, and they want those things at the same time that they want environmental and social change as well. So it's not just growth at any cost, it's growth with some of these other things in mind, responsible profitability. Inflation may be moderating, but we think it's still sticky. And so do CEOs. So more than half of CEOs are kind of talking about inflation in sort of almost a stagflationary kind of way. Now, inflation here in Australia down to 4.9%. RBA recently held interest rates. Investors would really like to see interest rates start dropping, but I don't know. I mean, inflation is still about 250% above what most central banks want to see it be. And I also think like the first half of any challenge is always easier than the second half. So if you think about the last time that you did an ERP, implementation, the first half was easier than the second half and going into production, right? And so for central bankers, why would it be any different? So inflation is moderating. Hopefully it will stay that way, but CEOs are expecting it to be a little bit sticky. And you can see here the CEO of Greggs, maker of pasties and other, good food. What she's saying is, not only do we not see deflation, but there's also a lot of factors that we have in our business that are kind of suggesting inflation is going to be around for a little while. The other thing that's sticking around is talent. Talent challenges just keep rising. And this isn't just a transient challenge that you can kind of wait out. There was a little bit of hope, I think, this year that if we have a recession, one of the silver linings of that could be maybe it would kind of decrease pressure on the talent challenges that we have. But that hasn't been the case. And here's the data. You can see it just, keeps rising as a challenge. Last year when we did the survey, 80% of CEOs said that talent is a crisis level issue for them. Shifting gears and talking a little bit about ESG and sustainability for a moment, I love the pragmatism of this CEO. The CEO of Coca-Cola is saying, ESG, it's kind of a toxic word in some geographies, but some of the business principles of it are what CEOs need to be able to grow their business. And for him, it's about water and packaging and healthy drinks. Sustainability will be part of the CEO's growth strategy, or in a government agency of what's happening with mission over the next few decades, not even just this decade. It's not the environment versus capitalism. It's environmental change through capitalism. It's that money is shifting, and the flow of money is shifting through venture capital being invested in clean tech, through mergers and acquisitions over the last 10 years, huge rise in terms of those that are focused specifically on different types of sustainability. And Macquarie is thinking this way as well. Infrastructure investment funds. Big money is looking at sustainability as a growth opportunity, in this case, investment in green technology. And also here in Australia, Brisbane Airport. I love this Australian Jet Zero Council instead of Net Zero Council, Jet Zero, and the focus on sustainable aviation. Reglobalization challenges are only poised to continue. So look at the data here from supply chain. CEOs saying kind of mixed. About half are saying they're persistent and we're expecting them to continue into the future. And then looking at China, organizations, CEOs looking at remaining, reducing their dependency on the Chinese market. I noticed here in Australia that enrollment in Mandarin courses is down. This will, though, I think, be an opportunity for investors. Like usually when everybody is kind of going in one direction, it creates investment opportunities in the other direction. So Chinese stocks right now are trading at about 10.8 times earnings, and that's a pretty good deal compared to other geographies. And the US dollar is starting to moderate a little bit, and that could help China kind of reinforce the yuan. So in general, reglobalization is a challenge. CEOs are wanting to reduce their dependencies. What's happening with digital in all of this? Well, digital just keeps increasing as well. And so even though the talk is a lot of AI right now, CEOs are talking about that digital is still a very key part of what they're doing. Digital is becoming business, but also when we ask CEOs, where are you on your digital journey? Half are either just starting or they're only halfway through. So there's still a lot more to be done with digital. I also love, you see the 13% continuous. Digital is continuous and unending. When I was in college, I ran track and field, and I had this poster up in my room that said, there is no finish line. And with digital, really, there is no finish line. And so all of the work that you've been doing in digital, it's been an amazing foundation for AI, and CEOs still are looking at that as a key part of what their long-term business strategy is going to be. So tech is going to be key to whatever the post-crisis strategy looks like. From a talent perspective, what's needed is human-centric productivity, technology that gets like dull, dirty, dangerous work out of the way. With profit, everyday AI, like you saw in the keynote. With sustainability, ecosystem data platforms that enable you to get data from your supply chain partners and share that out maybe with others in your industry to create value together. With reglobalization, it's about the digital supply chain, but it's also about the autonomous, self-healing supply chain. So here are some actions you can take. Discover what the timing of this post-business crisis strategy is. For most of you, it's either happening right now or it's going to happen next year. Assert your personal input in this. Don't defer to all of kind of the, some of the noisy internal players and consultants. Assert your influence in your position. Your organization needs your insight for this post-crisis strategy. Look at how AI is going to change the terms of competition in your industry. Maybe your organization won't be the one to do that, but it needs to have an idea of what that's going to look like going forward. And then remember how CEOs, they're tolerating longer returns right now. Offer up some bigger potential returns, even if they are going to be over the longer term. Next, frame the AI future. The executive team wants to make some bold bets, but first, they need to frame what this AI future is going to look like. Why do it? Because your CEO and board are doing it already. Here's what I think happened. GPT-3 came out late last year, and for the first time in a while, CEOs were able to get their hands on kind of new emerging technology. And then they were also watching what big tech was doing with generative AI and making one announcement after another about how they were going to use AI to grow their organizations. And CEOs could listen to that and say, figure out that there are ways that their organization could do a lot of the same things that big tech is doing, just in a little different way. So when we ask CEOs, what's the technology that's most going to influence your industry? For the fourth year in a row, AI. We've never seen a technology be the #1 technology for this long, and we've never seen a jump that's quite this big before. The CEO of NAB recently took executives to the US to meet with some high-tech companies and meet with a couple consulting companies, kind of like in the 2010s when CEOs would go to Silicon Valley for like a digital tour to spark imagination, or go to London and Canary Wharf to the FinTech Center. That's what NAB did, and here he's saying, you either get in front of AI or other companies will do it for you. Does your CEO appreciate what AI is really capable of? Well, no, but I would say better than they appreciated the metaverse or blockchain and what those technologies could do. So on the one hand, no, they don't. And I think all of us, truly, we're just seeing kind of the tip of the iceberg of opportunity. But on the other hand, they do, because 59% of CEOs are using ChatGPT in their jobs already. They're using it for communication and writing. They're using for research, whether that's just general research or market research. Look at the one on the bottom, job descriptions. For many CIOs, there's a path to CEO. And that is the case now more than ever with AI. If we are going to grow through AI, there's an even stronger path for you to go to CEO. So maybe your CEO is using ChatGPT to write your next job description. This CEO is talking about, I went to ChatGPT and asked, how is generative AI going to change my industry in publishing? And was pretty impressed with some of the results that came back. Some commentators would say SoftBank had some missteps with AI investment, but this CEO is chatting with GPT every day. Some can even contemplate making synthetic videos of themselves. Half said, no, I would never do that. Another quarter were like, oh, I don't know. And a quarter might consider or actually do it. So it's really captured their imagination of new possibilities. The CEO of Disney saying, kind of in a lighthearted way, I'm looking forward to when AI could do my next earnings call for me. Maybe you wouldn't even notice that, it wasn't me. And CEOs are talking with their boards of directors right now on this topic. So, 38% haven't, but everybody else, either it's been an agenda item at one board meeting or more. Some are even having separate meetings to talk about what the possibilities and what the risks are with generative AI. And they're much more concerned about AI as a growth engine than AI as a headcount reduction. So look at this. Number one way that they want to use generative AI is to grow. And look at the bottom. Last thing that they're thinking about is headcount reduction because of AI. Now, notice in the middle here, there is focus on some of the risks of AI, but what's really missing is productivity and everyday AI and the way that that can help improve productivity and efficiency. CEOs are not worried about singularity. 78% say the benefits of AI far outweigh the risks. And, I really like this comment here from the CEO of Walmart. Basically, what he's saying is, hey, everybody, don't go running around like AI is this hammer that we're going to use to address every single problem we have. And so it is a very real need that your CEO has, is to help manage the hype of generative AI. As you saw in the keynote, generative AI is at the peak of inflated expectations, and we know what happens next, right? It's going to go in the trough. And so your CEO needs your help in kind of managing the hype that goes along with this. And that's the first action item to take, is really to identify what are the business capabilities that your organization is going to need in this post-crisis strategy. We know M&A is going to go back up. So maybe that's going to be a key part of the post-crisis strategy is what are the targets for M&A? How do we, do post-merger integration? How do we defend our brand? So identify the business capabilities that are going to be most important for the business strategy. And then brainstorm how AI can make a difference. How can AI address those critical business capabilities to improve like the quality and productivity of engineers using CAD models, that kind of thing. Challenge and embarrass any AI washing behavior. And that goes both ways. So, when it's like, oh, let's use AI for everything, don't let that happen. But at the same time, when AI goes into the trough of disillusionment, do not let the brand of AI be diluted. This is a transformational technology. And figure out the unique AI training data, the proprietary data that you can use that's going to make the biggest difference for your organization. You can't use all of it, it's too expensive, right? But like, for example, if you're in the financial industry, maybe you would use AI to listen to the last 2 years of discussions with financial advisors so that you can see new trends, new opportunities of how to use AI. There's a new AI economic future that's emerging. And in the spirit of Steve Jobs, just one more thing. I've saved one data point for the end. Who is it that's going to frame that AI future? The CEO wants it to be you. You are the executive committee member that the CEO is relying on the most to unlock the value and potential of AI. With digital, CIOs in general kind of held back as that was emerging. And then there was a new role that had to be made, the chief digital officer. And I know some of you have that role. But don't hold back. Don't wait. Frame the AI future. Be bold. Build the business reasoning. And lean in to win. Thank you very much.